Bradley, why did you order the wrong ones originally?
Because I'm a spud, guys.
Yeah.
1.3 millimeters difference, that is. Unrecognisable to the naked eye.
Well, folks, welcome back to Second Gear Low. You would have seen in the last episode, we redid the cooling system in this absolute beast. So now the temperatures are holding perfecto. Bradley, what are we doing in this one?
Today, we're going to be changing out the front brake discs. After an earlier mishap with the wrong parts, we're filming it again. And we're also going to be bleeding the brake fluid as well from the back towards the front. So hopefully that's going to make her pull up a bit faster than she is at the moment.
Yes, well, she is race car spec, so we definitely need some good brakes. Let's jump into it. There we go.
Step one, we're going to jack up the front of the Jimny and get jack stands under the axle housing on both ends.
Let's go, Bradley, let's go.
Both wheels are off the ground.
Yeah, keep going. Keep going. Keep it going. Two holes showing.
Yep.
Can you not hit my Jimny on the way in, mate?
Can you go up a little bit?
Always got to do the hard jobs.
Yep, okay, this side's in. So if you just slowly lower that. Yep, stop. And I'll get the other side. Yep, come down. Yep.
30 minutes later, he's jacked. Now comes the fun part. Catch.
Cheers. We did chock the back wheels as well for a bit of safety. Rattle gun, 19 mil. You grab those nuts.
What's that? Remember that time you didn't secure a wheel and it rolled onto the road?
Things that never happened.
Bradley remembers.
Alrighty, so we're going to start over on the left side. We've got the caliper here on the brake disc that we're going to replace. I'm just going to start by loosening the sliding pins on the caliper before I remove it, because that's going to make it easier to get them off while they're still held in place.
Uno, due, 2 of them.
Yep.
Send it.
Yeah, okay, they're not particularly tight, which is good. I'm not going to take them all the way out, just crack them while they're held in place.
Oh, the familiar sound of noises.
Didn't sound too good. So those two with a 12mm socket. Now I'll grab my 17mm, and there's 2 bolts on the back that hold the caliper on, so I'm going to loosen those.
And Bradley's going to put a lovely photo on the screen so that you can see. These are quite tight, so Bradley's going to put all of his gym efforts in to loosening these ones. I'm on holiday, so I'm not doing any work on this one. Do you have a bigger purse?
There we go. Then we can unextend the ratchet. There we go, beautiful.
Still the best tool we own.
It is very handy. The other one's just on the back here, just underneath that sliding pin bolt.
Oh, we've got a message here, Bradley.
Oh yeah?
Don from Bundaberg says, Bradley, get a bigger purse and hit it harder. Yours truly, Don. Thanks, Don.
All right, there's that first one. Excuse me.
Oh, would you like a massage? Is that what?
And just like that, 2 caliper bolts. The caliper should just come off.
Just like that.
I don't want to let it dangle by the brake line here, so I've got myself a cable tie, and I'm just going to use that in the spring just to hold the caliper up while we do some work on it. It's a bit fiddly. I think we've got it. That'll do for now. We can come back and fix that later. Up next, we're going to get the disc off because we're going to replace that today. So if it doesn't want to come off by itself, which it doesn't, there's 2 holes on opposite sides of the disc. They just take a standard M8 bolt. So I'm just going to thread that in.
In case, like if you're working on a different car and there's no holes there, you can also lightly tap around the rim of the disc with like a mallet, and that helps loosen up, because what happens is in here it gets all rusty and crusty and then it binds. The speed and agility of this man.
13mm socket on the M8 bolts, and we're just going to tighten them down and they'll slowly start to push the disc off the hub. I'm just going to sort of alternate between the 2 bolts so I push it off evenly. It's going to be hard to see on the camera, but I can see that disc starting to come away there. It's a bit bound up on the other side. There we go, and that's come off now. Lovely.
Oh, look at all the Spidey boys, Bradley. I'm just going to zoom in on that little
There's been a whole family of spiders living in the brakes there. The Jimny's been parked up for a little while we had those issues with the cooling system that we fixed in the last episode. Can you just grab me a couple of tissues?
Oh, absolutely. There's nothing I'd rather do.
That's as far as we're going to be going today for the teardown on the front, but if you are interested, if you haven't seen the video already, episode 3 was a full teardown on this whole swivel hub, including these air lines for the full drive locking system. And we've got a separate video on the kingpin shims as well. Check those out if you haven't seen them already.
Shameless plug. Suppose you'll be wanting some of these bad boys?
Yeah, sure. With brass wire brush. I'm just going to clean up the mating flange there where the back of the new disc is going to go onto. Would you mind just grabbing the brake and parts cleaner and the paper towel?
Do you have a full one?
In the back in the cardboard box. No, get a full one. Or a full air one.
There we go.
Oh, good help is hard to come by, I tell you what.
What? It's a different can. It's not my fault they're all empty.
It's empty too. Giving the threads a little bit of a clean as well. So anywhere around the brakes themselves, we want to try and use brake and parts cleaner, not degreaser, because this is going to evaporate and not leave any oily residue, which is going to obviously affect your brakes. But you don't want to spray this on your painted parts because it does strip the paint.
So we alluded to a slight part number problem earlier.
Yeah, so the way it works is that up until a certain VIN, there was a 107 mil bore, and then after a certain VIN, which our car is part of, it was 108.3. So only about a millimetre different, but yeah, it means that if you buy the wrong disc, it won't fit.
Yeah.
So I'll put the part numbers up on screen for that.
And unfortunately, we found that out the hard way.
Yeah.
So if anyone wants some Jimny brake discs, contact your local authorised Bradley.
All right, this is looking pretty clean, Luca.
Bradley, are you a bit warm? Do you want some cooling?
Too many horsepower. My eyes are the driest they've ever been.
Do you want a haircut too?
Can't take him anywhere. All right, do you want to grab one of the new correct size brake discs for us?
All plastic wrapped.
So they come with a coating on them, which we've got to remove with some brake and parts cleaner. That's just to stop these from rusting before you install them. I'm going to grab my paper towel and give it a quick little spray with the brake and parts cleaner and wipe off all of that oil. Important we don't forget to do this because obviously we don't want oil between the brake discs and the brake pads. Happy with that? Yep, cool. There we go.
Like an absolute glove, Bradley.
So when you buy the wrong one, you get this far and then you realise it just won't fit and you get very upset. All right, beautiful.
Classic, leaves me with the hard jobs. Right, 12 mil sliding pins, take them out. So as you can see, these are a bit dry. Normally you'd want a bit of grease on this part and that just helps for the caliper to move in and out. So we'll definitely put a bit of grease on those. Fly like a bird. See, this one's dry as well. Goodness me. Who's been doing restoration of this vehicle? These pads aren't shocking, but they could be better. Anyway, we'll replace them with new ones. So now I have to get to work cleaning all of this. So I'll take them out first. So if you want, you can get new ones of these bits of hardware and you can replace them. We're just gonna give them a good clean. You want the new pads to slide in there nice and freely. Test fit the pad, see if they can move. This is the part where you forget how the pad goes.
I can see that's got a new anti-squeal shim on it as well on
Correct.
These pads.
So that moves relatively freely, which is good.
So obviously you can buy Suzuki discs and pads, but we just decided to go for DBA Street Series, which is sort of a high quality aftermarket brake set.
Well, it's a street performance vehicle. That's
Yeah.
what it deserves.
So much power.
Exactly. Yeah, that's good. Normally these get really jammed in there and then people do all sorts of crazy jobs like grind these little ears and stuff. The way it works, these sliding pins sit inside like a bush. You want this to move freely so that when you press the brake pedal, the caliper compresses, but then when you release the pedal, it'll spring back out a little bit. If they don't move freely, what happens is the caliper stays compressed, basically locked onto your disc, and you wear out your pads quicker and you can get noise and other issues. So it's good to just make sure that these move and grease them up a little bit as well. When we first came to this was a bit stiff, so young Bradley, I'm going to put a bit of grease.
And that's going to be held in between those two rubber boots there.
Yeah. Yeah, so this is fairly dry.
I was just going to say, let's clean that up with some brake and parts cleaner as well, and then we'll put fresh grease on there.
What I also like to do is clean up these boots a little bit. So I poke my noodle through. These noodles are just cooked at about, 100 degrees for 8 minutes. And that gets them nice and al dente. Yeah, so it's rather dry in there. But that's all right. That's why we're here, isn't it? A little bit of grease on the old finger. Get this guy nice and greasy. Oh, it looks so inviting, hey, but it's really not, because you just get it on everything. And then I'm just going to pop it back into its little housing. There you go. Lovely. And then what you want to do is just make sure that the rubber is seated properly on there.
Little grooves in the end of the bush, the rubber just seats into.
Correct. Clean up any excess because we don't want that going everywhere.
We definitely don't want any grease on the pads or on the disc. Same thing on the other one.
I mean, I'm surprised they're moving as freely as they are. Now that I say that, it binds up.
Looks quite dusty.
Like, that's so dry.
That one needs a good clean.
Brad, can you get new bushes as well? New rubber?
I think you can, yeah.
So, I mean, these ones are in pretty good condition, but if yours are split, you can probably order some new ones.
Good idea to have a look at them while you're here. Definitely.
Yeah, definitely. Then I just sort of move it back and forth a bit to make sure she's sliding. The other one definitely moves smoother. Clean up any excess. All right, so you can probably see this piston is extended a bit, and that means that when we go and put the new pads in, it's not going to have enough room to fit over the disc. So what we do is you grab an old pad, sit it on the piston, and then we grab the biggest set of BS big clamps you could possibly find, and you just easily fit them in a clamping arrangement.
Yeah, a smaller F-clamp would be ideal for this.
There is actually a tool that they make specifically for this, but we're cheap and we don't have it. So, and just compress that down like so.
Yeah, that's moving.
Yeah. Look at that.
Cool.
Perfect. See, I told you.
And then as long as you don't press the brake pedal, that should stay where it is.
Yeah. Someone is definitely going to jump in the comments and say, oh, you need to keep an eye on the brake fluid level in the reservoir when you compress these. If you want to be super safe, check that, because as you compress this, the fluid's obviously going back into the reservoir. You can have a look, make sure it's not overflowing or anything crazy like that. All right, now I can start reassembly. So I'm going to grab that first part of the caliper and pop that over the disc. You may need to adjust these pads a little bit just so it fits. And I'm going to loosely put the, what are they, M17 bolts from the back.
Not M17, but yeah.
Yeah.
17mm socket.
Like so. One there and one there for the other part of the caliper. Look at that, like
beautiful.
An absolute glove. So Bradley's graciously gone and checked the FSM for me, and it does recommend obviously greasing what we've done with the bushes, which is fine, and then it doesn't recommend putting grease on these guys, but I'm going to put a little bit just because there is metal to metal sliding going on and I don't want any corrosion in there, but just a touch. And I'm going to slide these guys in from the back. I hope you're paying attention, Bradley, because you're going to do the other side all on your lonesome. While I go and have lunch. Yeah, I seem to have popped a glove.
Yeah, you've had a blowout there, so
yeah.
I've got a fresh new
well,
one
when you
here
work
for
as hard as I do, Bradley, these things happen. So second slide pin going in. And then Bradley has also graciously located the torque specifications. Right.
So we're going to start with those 17mm brake carrier bolts. 62 foot-pounds, 85 Newton meters, please.
I could achieve such greatness. Or not. Oh, goodness me.
This is why you're on the big bucks.
You don't pay me. Oh.
There is a heaps easier way to do this, which is just to turn the steering wheel. Turn full lock one way, do one bolt, full lock the other way to do the other, but we're just going to keep it where it is and
but we're
make
lazy.
it hard for ourselves.
Yeah, I'll just get it most of the way by elbow feel. Oh, see? Perfectly calibrated. Okay.
Yeah, so the brake caliper pin bolts, 16 foot-pounds, 22 newton meters.
There we go. We've got so much room to work here, Bradley. It's fantastic. It's really good. It's really loving it. Just like that. Oh, dude. We forgot to put the pads in. No, just kidding. All right. Now we break for lunch. Well, I break for lunch and Bradley does the other side. And then when you see us the next time, both front ends are going to be done. And then we're going to move on to bleeding.
All right, so through the magic of television, we've just finished doing the same thing on the other side, and now we're ready to bleed the brakes. And we're going to be doing that both so that we can remove any air that's in the system, but also because our brake fluid's not looking too good, so we're going to try and flush some of it out in the process. Up here in the engine bay, we've got the brake master cylinder with the brake fluid reservoir on top of it, and we need to bleed the brakes from the furthest point away from that back towards it. So in this case, it's going to be the left rear wheel, then the load sensing proportioning valve, which is in the middle of the car between the two rear wheels, then the left front, then the right front here in Australia. Now I've got myself a little unnamed soda bottle and a piece of plastic tubing, which is probably about a 6 mil or 1/4 inch internal diameter. And you're going to need that if you want to be able to do this job by yourself, because we're going to be able to put some fluid in here, and that's going to allow us to constantly pump the brake pedal without any air coming back through the line, basically contaminating our brake fluid. So let's get into it.
Thank you, Bradley. That was well explained.
So we got ourselves a couple of 500 ml bottles of DOT 3 brake fluid by Castrol. We're going to pour a little bit of that into the bottle with a funnel so that I don't pour it all over the workbench. Now you don't want to get this stuff on your hands, it's pretty nasty, it's pretty much paint stripper. I'm just going to pour a little bit of that into the bottom of the bottle so that I can submerge the end of the tube.
Yeah, let's start with that.
Yeah, we need to still have plenty in the bottle as well. When I put that in the bottle and we pump our foot on the brake pedal up and down, that's going to mean the air is going to get pushed through the tube and then come out the top of the bottle, and we're not going to suck any air back into the brake system. Let's jump under the car. Apologies, this is going to be a little bit hard to see, but this is the left rear wheel and we're just on the inside here. There's a little cover over the bleed nipple, so I'm just going to take that off, a little plug. Try not to lose that. We're going to put it back on after. And that's just exposed this silver little shiny bit here, which is the bleed nipple. So grab yourself an 8mm spanner. Here's one I prepared earlier. And I'm just going to loosen off this little bleed nipple, just maybe a 1/4 of a turn or so, because we don't want brake fluid coming out of that.
Which it is. Oh, quick. The comedy,
get the tube.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Can you make sure that doesn't fall over?
I literally said to you, don't you want to put the tube on first? Dude, this is such comedy. Nothing's in focus. Oh man, absolutely gold.
The tube's the wrong size.
This is fantastic. This is absolute Hollywood.
I'm just going to tighten this back up while we reassess.
Okay, that's probably a good idea.
Remember how I was saying it's basically paint stripper? You want to avoid getting brake fluid all over everything like I have here.
You're going to have to repaint the car.
That'll buff out, it's fine. Is that other tube definitely too big?
Yep, I knew this would happen. I knew it would get here and you'd be like, Daddy, I can't get the tube on. Just for the record, ladies and gents, he's got it on. It's absolutely pristine, as you can see.
Well done. Did you wiggle it a certain way or something?
No, I'm just good at this shit. Anything fiddly, you call me.
Yeah, actually,
literally.
It actually is
Anything
true.
that requires brains, you call Bradley. Anything that requires brawn, you call me.
Okay, Chief. So now that we've made sure we've put our tube on first, I'm going to crack that nipple about a 1/4 turn or so, just enough so fluid starts coming out of the end, not out of the threads. Pop the tube in the bottle. Luke, can you do me a favour and go and get on the old brake pedal?
So I'll have the task of filling up the reservoir too, right?
Yeah.
So can I crack the reservoir open?
Yeah. So as Luca pumps the brake pedal, it's going to push the old brake fluid down the tube and into the bottle. And because we've got the end of the tube in the fluid, I can actually see bubbles coming up in the bottom of the bottle, and no air is going to get sucked back in because we've submerged it. And I can see that the fluid in the bottom of the bottle is starting to get dirty because that old fluid's getting pumped in. Luca's just going to go every now and then and check on the reservoir, because we need to make sure that the reservoir stays between the full and low lines. If we let the reservoir get too empty, it's going to suck air into the system, and then we're going to have to repeat the whole process again, which we don't want.
No.
Yeah, we can see some pretty dirty fluid coming out into the bottle now. How's that reservoir level looking?
Yeah, I need to add some.
You can probably tell this is one of those jobs where it definitely helps to have a second person. I could do this by by myself, but I'd have to keep alternating between going and pressing the brake pedal, checking the reservoir, and checking to see if I've got bubbles still coming out down here at the bottle. There's no air bubbles, so we've got all the air out. Yeah, it's fairly clear, and I'm just gonna tighten that bleeder plug. We don't wanna over tighten these and strip the thread on them because it is only quite small. And then once that's tight, I can just pull that tube off. Oh no.
You knocked the bottle, didn't you?
I was siphoning it out of the bottle onto the floor. And then I'm just going to push that little plug back on the end of the bleeder nipple. Lovely. We're pretty much directly above the rear differential or the rear axle housing between the left and right rear wheels. And this is the load sensing proportioning valve, which is one of our bleed points that we need to do next. So this pretty much controls your brake bias between the front and the rear of the car, depending on how heavily laden and how lifted the rear of the car is. So I'm going to start by removing the plug again off the nipple. Yes. Got it. 10mm open-ended spanner on the LSPV. There we go. Just crack it a little bit. See fluid started to come out there, which is good. Are you on the brake pedal?
Yep.
Yep, so the fluid's pumping out. That fluid's actually looking quite good as well. I can see that the level in the bottle is rising and we're not getting any air bubbles coming through this here.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, that's good.
Cool, okay, I'm just gonna nip up this 10mm then.
And then good luck to you with not getting it everywhere. I think I'm going to move the camera out of your way.
So yeah, I need to just not get brake fluid all over myself and then not knock this bottle over as well.
Not. I'm going to capture greatness.
Just put this
I'm so tempted to tip the bottle.
We'll just put this over here. Where's the lid?
I don't know, I lost it.
The POV is awkward. Much success.
To the front.
Yes. We're halfway there on bleeding. And I would say that's the more difficult half. Oh, okay, I did knock it over, but the lid was on. It's all good. Oh, I just got to put that plug back on.
Near your left elbow.
Oh, yeah, I see it. I can't, like, twist my arm.
Left? No. Oh, you almost had it.
I need better shoulder flexibility.
Go down. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's the way. There's no paint left on the back half of the vehicle, but...
So then now that I've finished helping Brad with the back, he's tasked me to do the front. We start with the front left on this car because that's the furthest from the master cylinder.
Yep, so passenger side.
We grab our little tubey boy. It's nice and accessible when you take the wheel off. This one here, so our one doesn't have a little rubber boot on it, but if yours did, you'd take that off. I'm gonna crack the nipple.
We're getting fluid starting to come out.
Yep.
Perfect. And you can slowly just see the level in the bottle coming up there as well. We're getting some pretty clean fluid coming out, which is good.
So while that's happening, I'm just going to pour a little bit more fluid into the master cylinder so we maintain between the min and max lines. Top her up. It's a good idea as well, Bradley, to clean this cap. It actually says on the cap, clean it, because if you get heaps of crud and muck into the brake fluid reservoir, it's not very good for it.
Yeah, so clean it before you remove it for the first time.
Yeah.
And that liquid is looking very clean and clear, which is good.
Again, just nip that, you don't need to absolutely reef on it. And then we go to the last side. We're almost done. So what's the word? What's brake fluid? It attracts moisture. Hydroscopic?
Yeah, I think so. Because it's the opposite of hydrophobic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So brake fluid is that, hydroscopic, we believe. Essentially, it absorbs moisture. Best thing to do is not reuse open bottles of brake fluid, always use a fresh bottle. Pump the jam. Did I crack the thing?
Nah.
Haha, got ya.
I was going to say you haven't loosened it off enough, but you haven't loosened it off at all.
That's what'll happen. Like, that was a good test, really. That shows the folks anyone can make mistakes, even people as perfect as us.
Yeah, if you don't loosen it off enough as well, then it won't come out.
Then I'm going to help it along with a few pumps of the brake pedal. Oh,
yeah,
it's so nice and smooth.
That fluid that's coming out is looking pretty good as well. I can see the levels coming up in the bottle.
Just going to use the last little bit of the brake fluid there to top off this reservoir and make sure that the level's between min and max.
Yeah, we can probably go to the max line because we're finished bleeding the system now.
Yeah. Make sure you put the cap back on. Beauty. Right, so can you give me a hand to then whack the wheels back on and let's go for a spin?
Yeah. Let's give the brake discs a quick wipe as well,
that
just in case we got any contaminants on there, bit of brake and parts cleaner.
There's a bit of lintage.
Yeah. Does look good though with those shiny new pads and
disc on there. It's absolutely unreal. Look at that, hey? Wheels back on, please.
Let's do it.
You do one, I'll do the other.
Yep.
Oh, it's so nice when these are so light
Yeah.
compared to the cruiser wheels. And then do we remember the torque spec?
100 Newton meters.
No way. Really?
Yeah.
Holy moly. They really don't want them to come off, do they?
What we'll do though is we'll just snug them down with the rattle gun and then we'll torque them on the floor.
Yeah, the heat really takes it out of you. This place is lacking air conditioning. I'm going to raise that issue with the landlord.
Ready?
What are we doing? Oh, jack stands. Yep. One's out. Two's out.
Coming down.
Coming down.
Soft landing.
Soft landing.
Beautiful. 72 foot-pounds coming up. All right, shall we take her for a spin?
Yeah.
We probably won't film that part, but what are we going to do?
Bedding in procedure for new brakes. So generally speaking, you get the car up to a decent speed, maybe 60 kilometers an hour to 80 kilometers an hour, and you brake hard, but you don't come to a complete stop. So the idea is you bed the brakes in and you're basically depositing material from your brake pad onto your brake disc, and then that helps it wear in nicely, and it helps with the longevity of the pads and the rotors. It also helps those two surfaces kind of mate properly.
And you do that a few times, eh?
Yeah, you do it up to 10 times,
Yeah.
sort of thing.
We'll go and do that now. We're not going to film it, and then we'll come back and report on the results.
Wonderful.
All right, so we've just taken the Jimny for a spin. We've done the bedding in procedure and it went well, so she's stopping on a dime now. We should have mentioned before though that make sure you do this on a closed road or at least when there's no traffic around, because you don't want to stop with someone behind you and cause an accident.
100%. So next we're going to dive back into the engine bay. We're going to do the power steering fluid and a hose. We're going to do the PCV and also a rocker cover gasket because that has been leaking for a while. But we also wanted to say, we know we only did the front brakes on this one. If you want to see us do the rear brakes, let us know in the comments below. But otherwise, we will see you in the next video.